Welcome everyone to Using Garmin ConnectIQ with Moxy. Our presenter today is Josh Gunkel. Josh is the ConnectIQ program manager at Garmin, and he's going to give us an overview on the ConnectIQ system. The format for today is that we'll have Josh give the overview of ConnectIQ for about 15 minutes. We'll take a question or two at that time, and then I will go through some slides on the current Moxy ConnectIQ apps. And we'll talk about what's coming up for new apps, and we'll also talk about device selection, which devices work best with the Moxy. Then at the end, we'll have some more question and answer, and our goal is to have everything wound up by about 2:40 or 2:45 or so. So with that, I'm going to turn things over to Josh. One thing I forgot, if you have questions as we go, there's a question panel off on the right side of your screen. And so just type your questions in there, and then we'll take those at the question periods. So with that, I will turn it over to Josh.
Well, thank you, Roger. I appreciate it. Well, good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for joining us for a few minutes today. I hope the topic is insightful and can kind of share a little bit about our journey here at Garmin with ConnectIQ and some of the exciting things we're doing. So like Roger mentioned, my name is Josh Gunkel. I lead the developer program for ConnectIQ. And ConnectIQ is really an exciting new platform for us. Last year we launched it at the ANT Symposium as a way to open up our devices for third-party innovation. And so it's been a fun year, and I'll talk through some of the components of that. But first I want to talk a little bit about, I'll get my slide to progress. There we go. Talk a little bit about Garmin, and there's probably a mixed level of familiarity with Garmin and what all we do, but Garmin's been around for about 25 years, a little over. We started in the marine category with when GPS first opened up, but have really built a great business around a lot of different segments, from automotive, aviation, outdoor, fitness, action cameras, a lot of different segments, but really our goal is to build purpose-built devices, devices that enable the active lifestyle and really can bring the tools and technology you need whenever and wherever you are in the world. And so a lot of that comes through GPS and sensors and a lot of really cool technology that we've enabled through these devices. So for that 25 years, we've been building great world-class devices, but a few years back, we started to shift a little bit of our posture in how we worked with third-party partners and developers, and we started to build multiple different developer communities and developer programs to enable our partners to integrate with our ecosystem, leverage the data that's generated from our devices to create content for devices and things like that. And so we switched that posture, and including things like our Verb camera, the Verb XE you can see on the snowboarder there. We've enabled developers to take the video and control these cameras through one of our newest developer programs. So you can see we're constantly searching for ways that we can partner with other developers and other companies that are doing great things. And so 2 years ago, we specifically asked a question of our device teams and our engineers, and that was around our wearables. These are wearables that have really powerful technology in how they integrate with different platforms, different communication layers, Android and Apple, with GPS, with sensors, but ultimately have outstanding battery life, where we measure in weeks, not in hours, compared to a lot of competitors. And so we wanted to ask the question, could we continue to deliver that experience, but bring in third-party apps and content into those wearables? And this was a big undertaking, but from a lot of research and development, we ultimately came to ConnectIQ, which was that wearable app platform. And so that's what I want to talk a little bit further about today. So basically, with ConnectIQ, we've given third parties the ability to create 4 different app types. Those are watch faces. Watch faces is pretty much customizing that base watch experience and following in line with our active lifestyle users. A lot of these watch faces are designed around the data and things that are on the watch, displaying those in different ways, beating your goal in steps and things of that nature. Data fields is about integrating with the Garmin activity. And so like a run or a cycle, the apps that exist from Garmin natively on the watch, a data field allows a third-party developer to bring new data fields, obviously, to that experience. Widgets, that's about information at a glance. So that's kind of your calendar, your weather forecast, things of that nature that a user might want to see at a quick glance on their watch. Wearables are great for in-the-moment information and things that are relevant at that point, but you want to spend seconds on that, not minutes like you would on a phone. And then finally, watch apps. These are a deeper level integration with the watch where there's kind of a start and a finish. Maybe that's a running app with certain, Moxy has a great one for testing testing your fitness level, and then also we've got sailing apps, we've got tennis score trackers, a whole bunch of things that are available through the Watch App platform. So with Garmin, we believe that there's not a one-size-fits-all device. You know, as these devices are meant for your active lifestyle, different people like different things. You have triathletes, you have casual runners. You've got people that are pilots. Deep 2 Bravo, that's for the pilot watch. Epix and Phoenix 3 are both oriented towards more of the outdoor, hiking, mountain climbing, all those kinds of things. They're very rugged. They have lots of other sensors that some of the other devices don't have. With this array of devices, we're meeting a lot of different needs and different things, including cycling. We just announced a few weeks ago at the ANT Symposium about the Edge computer, where we are adding ConnectIQ to Edge devices. So these are coming soon in Q1 2016. So over the past year, it's really been a foundational year for ConnectIQ. Like I said, we launched the developer program with all the tools associated with that. Back at CES, we launched the App Store and announced the first of the 8 devices, and now up to 8 devices with more coming early next year. And of those devices, we are on target to have over 1 million of them in the market globally by the end of the year, which is exactly where we were targeting at the beginning. So that's exciting stuff. We also hit the 1,000 app threshold in our ConnectIQ store, which is also very exciting. So internally here at Garmin, and a lot of the folks I get to talk to being our developer evangelist, there's a lot of excitement in the traction that we're seeing around this active lifestyle use case and bringing our devices into that. One of the things when Roger reached out about this webinar is I like highlighting some of the really interesting stuff that we can do, and a lot of that revolves around our ANT connectivity. So with ANT, which is great for connecting sensors like the Moxy sensor to watches and cycling computers, we've enabled a lot of different things with that. But a few months ago, our group up in Cochrane with the Dynastream and the ANT team, they had a hackathon with some of their employees and came up with some really cool applications of leveraging ANT and ConnectIQ for new things. So for instance, they came up with some peer-to-peer solutions, which were, one of the ideas was a gridiron coordinator, where basically 2 players on a team could both have watches. One of them, probably the quarterback, would select a play from their watch, and that play would be sent wirelessly over ANT to the wide receiver, who would look down and see which play he was supposed to run. So it was a really cool example of how peer-to-peer could work through ANT. Home automation, there's some interesting high node count capabilities with ANT. So essentially we have, and there's some videos we could potentially share later, of connecting a watch and controlling a whole series of candles or lights via this high node count, and bringing in home automation. And then finally, I've got a video coming up for gesture control, where essentially we've taken the accelerometer in one of the Phoenix 3s and tapped into that to control our Varia bike lights. So you can see this bike rider using different gestures to signal left and right turn, and the watch is communicating wirelessly to the lights to make them flash accordingly. You know, when we decided to add ConnectIQ to our edge devices, we reached out to Specialized to kind of get a vision for how this might be useful, and they responded with a really interesting use case that I'd like to talk about, and that's to integrate with their e-bike, the Turbo Levo e-mountain bike. This is an amazing bike. We got to see one of them at the ANT Symposium. It's brand new, but I definitely want one, that's for sure. But with an e-bike, there's a lot of extra data that's associated with the bike, from battery life, distance traveled, assist level, and on. And what they needed was a way to display that information to the Edge product, and ConnectIQ was a perfect solution for this. So this is the app that we've made. This will come out later or early next year. But what's also cool is that we get the data displayed on the device, but we also have built the ability to control the assist level on the bike. So with an e-bike, you can have a little bit or a lot of assistance as you're riding. So controlling that from the edge is a new capability. And then finally, we for that full kind of experience around the bike, tire pressure is important. And so we've added some tire pressure sensors to it and then displayed that through the app. So you can see how ConnectIQ can really be a platform to stitch together some important components to an exercise or to a solution and really bring that all together. So I'm going to walk through a few things, just a little bit more details on what ConnectIQ can bring. So first is really about the watch, and we tap into a lot of the capabilities like watch sensors, recording to the fit file to capture that activity data, and then ultimately the developer can control what that experience looks like on the watch. And so that's how we tap into some of the watch APIs or create watch APIs for a developer to integrate with our devices. And then ANT, a key component like I described earlier. With ANT, you can send and receive data, like with the peer-to-peer, that's sending and receiving both. We can use generic ANT channels. So that lets us extend into new ANT devices that are not profiles supported on a specific watch. So that's a perfect scenario for the Moxy sensor. And then private channels for the solutions that are keeping a channel private and want to still use our Garmin devices to integrate with. Connectivity. We talked to both iOS and Android apps through the widgets and apps app types. So that extends it in a lot of different ways through smart to be smart and find out and integrate with your phone no matter what, not being more platform agnostic. And this allows the watch to both tap into web APIs, so like for the weather forecast, or we have an AccuWeather allergen report that's a web API brought straight to the wearable. And then companion apps. This lets the watch talk directly to a third-party companion app to really bring in specific data or authentication or different elements from that companion app. So I wanted to wrap up a little bit with, that's a little, what I've been talking about is the current standing, what you can do now. But we have an exciting roadmap ahead. And so basically what we're trying to accomplish here into the future is bring ConnectIQ to as many purpose-built devices as we can. And that really starts with the edge computer that I talked about a bit ago, and taking it past the wearable into other purpose-built devices that Garmin makes. And then the other thing is we want to enable full circle experiences with ConnectIQ. There's definitely a lot of components that ConnectIQ already has, but if you think about the athlete has lots of different ways things that they have get data from, that different pieces of data that they want to include in their workout, things that are important to them. And so we want to facilitate this full circle experience. So that's working with different ANT technologies, different sensors, different devices that might be a part of that athlete's experience and their goals and setting and meeting those goals. Then we have to bring those ANT devices and those things into the watch. And so this is representative of one of the ways that we are growing and doing that by bringing ANT data into data fields. This is a new feature that we're adding with our new release of ConnectIQ. And where before we could bring it into widgets and apps that I talked about before, but now we'll be able to bring those into data fields. The next thing is about recording that data. You can see it on the watch, but you want to capture that and then taking that ultimately into Garmin Connect or some other service and visualize that and be able to look back on how you did before, your trends, your progress, things of that nature. So we want you to be able to capture that data within the watch and then to extend that into the communities that you're in. And ultimately, that first will go into Garmin Connect, where we take all of our data off of our devices, but extend that into the new communities that are important to you, where your community is as an athlete. And so you can see how this really applies to fantastic solutions like Moxy, where they have a great sensor, very innovative platform that can come into the Garmin devices now, which is a key device for their market, and then ultimately record that and bring it into that history for that athlete, and then extend it into the communities that matter for that particular athlete. So that full circle experience is something that we will continuously strive for. Garmin is not the only touch point or the only component of that athlete's active lifestyle, and so we want to connect those dots and use ConnectIQ where we can to make that happen. So that's a quick, high-level introduction and overview of ConnectIQ. And basically, there's a couple different entry points into our world. The first is at apps.garmin.com. This is where our ConnectIQ app store is. You can go there and search through the different apps and apps, data fields, widgets, and watch faces that are available for all the different watch platforms, and see which ones are popular, which ones are new and updated, and so forth. So that's where all of the magic happens on the consumer and user side. And then the developer.garmin.com, that's our larger developer website that has all of the developer programs I was mentioning earlier, but it also has ConnectIQ, where you can download the SDKs, the developer tools are there, and all the documentation associated with ConnectIQ. That's really your best entry into getting started with developing, if that's something that would be interesting to you. And so with that quick overview, I'm ready to transition into questions.
All right, Josh, thank you for that. I'll remind everybody you can enter your questions on the right panel of the screen. I don't see any in there yet, but if you've got any questions for Josh or for me as we go, just type those in and we'll take those at the end. I'm going to switch the presentation over here to talk a little bit about the apps that are currently available for the Moxy. Make sure this is working. Okay. First, I want to just say thanks to Josh for presenting today, and it's been a great relationship from our perspective, working with Garmin on getting this capability added to their watches. It's really fantastic to see how this is moving forward. We started the conversation with Garmin about this several years ago, so it's nice to see it coming to fruition now. Of the 1,000 apps that are currently available on the Garmin App Store at apps.garmin.com, 4 of those are Moxy apps. 2 of them are the Moxy Run and the Moxy Cycle apps. These 2 apps are intended to mimic the native functionality of the running and cycling apps or running and cycling activities that are currently available in the native portion of the watch. So I say they're an attempt at that because there's memory limits when we write apps for these watches. That means we can't mimic every single function that is available in the native portion of the watch, but we get reasonably close so that the apps that you see for the Moxy look a lot like, they have the same look and feel as the native apps on the Garmin devices. And so you can see your SMO2 and THB data live with this, as well as your other metrics like your speed and cadence and heart rate. And then one feature that a lot of our users have found really useful is you get one screen that is a live graph of your SMO2 and THB over time. So you can show 1, 3, or 5 minutes worth of data graphed, and then you can see the trends with what's going on with your SMO2 and THB right on the watch as it happens. Then we have two other apps that are, we call them the 515 Run app and the 515 Cycling app. And these are specifically intended to guide a 515 test. And they're based either on your 10K pace or your FTP. The app calculates the load for each load step, and then it has a timer that guides you through each load step. So you'll have 5 minutes at 44% of your FTP, and then it'll tell you to rest for a minute and guide you through that test. So with either of these apps, you could run a 515 test outdoors. You could use your bike on if you're on a reasonably flat area or running, we base it all on pace. If you're running on a track or something reasonably flat again, you could do those 515 tests and not be restricted to working in a lab. So all four of those apps are currently available on the Garmin store right now. Then this is just some screenshots of the Moxy Run and the Moxy Cycle app. So these apps are set up so that when you start the app, it comes up in a pairing screen. And the pairing screen is just to indicate that you have the sensors paired that you think you do, so you know it's okay to start your activity. The MO2 sensor, or the Moxy sensor, is paired inside the app. So once you start the app, and then if you push the menu button, it'll bring up an option to pair to an MO2 sensor. And then you turn your Moxy on, and of course it'll find it. And that pairing process is very similar to how you would pair to any other type of device, but you do it inside the app and not in the native portion of the watch. The other sensors, like the heart rate, speed and cadence, power meter, those sensors are just used from whatever sensors that you pair to in the native portion of the watch. So if you've already paired to a heart rate sensor, when you go into the Moxy app and that heart rate sensor is present, it will find it, and the heart rate button will light up once it found one. Then there's two other data screens that are meant to look like the native activity data screens. These would show things like the time, the distance, cadence, power. It'd also show your SMO2 and THB as numbers on this screen. But these are not configurable, it's fixed. And this is one of the memory limitations, is that we can only show a fixed set of data on these screens, and it's not user configurable. We would need to write a different app to show different data. And if people had requests for that, that's something definitely we'd like to hear about. If you'd like these apps to look differently on those data screens, we can customize them, but that's not something you can do directly on the watch. And then on the right, this is the graphing screen, and this can be set up, like I said earlier, with 1, 3, or 5 minutes range of data, and it will graph your SMO2 and THB trends as you go. Then also in any of the screens, there are alarms for SMO2. So you can set a high alarm and a low alarm limit, and that on the graph screen, it shows the alarms by the red and the blue lines. So if your SMO2 drops below the blue line, you will get an SMO2 low alarm, and if it goes above the red line, you'll get an SMO2 high alarm. And that's a useful feature if you're going to do interval training. You can set that alarm limit so that you know when to stop the high intensity interval and when to start the next interval. Another feature that was added recently to these apps is auto lap, and so you can set that up through the menu as well, and it will automatically mark laps when you've traveled, when you've gone a certain distance. This screen is showing the screenshots from the 515 Run and the 515 Cycle apps. The pairing screen looks a little bit different. This will just show you when you're getting data from the various sensors. So if you're getting data from your Moxy sensor, it'll show you the actual Moxy data. And once you're paired to a heart rate sensor, it'll show you your actual heart rate. this, again, you pair to the Moxy sensor inside this app, and it uses the native sensors are from sensors that you have paired to in the native portion of the watch. Then once you start the 515 test, then this load screen will pop up. So the load screen is when you're in the 5 portion of the 515. And so the speedometer indicator will help you target either the pace or the power that it has calculated for you. So your goal is to keep the black needle in the middle of the green segment as you go through this, as you go through the load. And then the timer will count down to 0 for the 5 minutes for that particular load. And then when you get to the end of the load, you'll see the rest screen, and then it will instruct you what to do for the rest. So in this case, it'll say 1 minute, walk slowly if you're doing a running test. If you're doing the cycling test, it would say 1 minute left leg up, or it would say 1 minute right leg up, depending on which portion of the test it was stopping you for. And then it will have a timer that counts down for the minute, and I think it also shows the heart rate during this portion of the test. For all of these tests, at some point you're going to want to bring that Moxy data back together with the watch data. So the Moxy data is shown on the watches, but at this point it's not stored on the watch. It's stored on the Moxy sensor. And so you can use Sport Tracks to bring the data together. And there, if you go on our website, I think there's a link to a video that shows how to merge your Garmin data with your Moxy data using the Sport Track software. And so that's the best way to merge the data that's available right now. So on this slide, I just wanted to talk a little bit about what's coming up. So in November, Garmin is adding the capability to use generic ANT channels within a data field. And this will allow us to use the native running or cycling activity on the watch, but we'll just add the Moxy data as another data field. So like in the same way that you set up the watch to add a heart rate data field or a average heart rate data field, you can set those various native data fields up to be displayed. You'll also be able to set the Moxy up that same way. So in this way, you'd be able to take advantage of all of the native capabilities of the watch. This also will allow us to connect more than one Moxy per watch. So we're planning on being able to connect up to 3 Moxys per watch. And that would, in some cases when we're using multiple Moxys on multiple muscles, that is would be an option starting in November. And then maybe on the devices that have more memory, we may be able to make the graph also work as a data field. And this is something we haven't worked out yet, but there are memory limitations with how much we can get done in a single data field. And so this is a possibility as well that we're working on. And then looking further forward out to the first quarter of next year, the fit file recording is going to become available on the watches. And this is a pretty important feature for Moxy data, because then this would allow the Moxy data to always stay together with the rest of the data that comes from the Garmin watch. You wouldn't need to recombine them later. And this will allow automatic import into softwares like Sport Tracks. Sport Tracks will have this available as soon as Garmin turns it on. We're also talking with WKO about having them have the ability to import the data from Garmin Connect as soon as that becomes available. I'm not sure if WKO is going to make it by Q1 of 2016 or not. And we'll maybe have some more questions or some more comments from Josh on this a little bit later. Then this is the last slide that I wanted to talk about. I get a lot of questions on what device should I get. If I'm getting a Moxy, what's the best one to use with their Moxy? And so I have a chart here of the devices that are available currently, and the Vivo Active is an important one to note. It's a very nice watch. I really like using the Vivo Active, but it has 2 features that you need to be aware of, or 2 limitations that you need to be aware of. First of all, the Vivo Active does not do 1-second recording. And I think my heading is misleading. It always does smart recording. It never does 1-second recording. And that is an impact when you want to do things like a 515 test, where you probably want to have the data recorded every second. When you use the smart recording, then the data can be as sparse as 30 seconds. You get one data point every 30 seconds. And if you're doing something like a 515 test where you want to monitor the recovery, or you wanted to do some interval training and look at the data afterwards, it's just not recorded with as fine a resolution as maybe you would want. And that's something that is maybe not obvious when you're looking at the spec sheets, but it's something to be aware of if you're going to be using this for more sophisticated type of analysis. And then the other thing with the Vivo Active is it does not connect to power meters natively in the watch. Now, it's possible we could write some apps that connect to the power meter. I haven't seen anybody do that yet, but certainly is a possibility. But not having it native on the watch is definitely something you want to be aware of if you're going to use this in any way with cycling. And so beyond that, I think the 920, the Phoenix 3, the Epics, I've used all of those watches. All of those have the 1 second recording capability. All of those do connect with power meters natively. All of them will have the ability to use Moxy in data fields coming up here in November. Then down at the bottom, nearing closer to the bottom of the chart, we've got the Edge 520 and the Edge 1000. Those will be coming out very soon. They will also have those capabilities. The 230, 235, and 630, I believe will have 1 second recording. However, those devices also will not connect with a power meter natively, so that's something else to be aware of. Then the rightmost column is probably the one that impacts heavily which device you're going to buy. And so this is with the fit file recording, and again, we'll hit Josh up for maybe a little bit more detail on this if he can tell us. But for sure, in Q1 of 2016, the Edge series devices are going to have fit file capability, and those devices are going to be using the version 2.0 of ConnectIQ. 2.0 requires more device capacity, more memory, bigger processors, that kind of thing, than what some of the older devices have. So the devices like the Vivo Active 920, Phoenix 3, and Epics likely do not have big enough processors to run the ConnectIQ 2.0. But they are looking at adding the fit file recording into those devices anyway, but it's not sure if it's going to be able to operate. So I put question marks in there. Not sure how those are going to turn out. The Epics does have more processing capability than the other watches, so it's possible it may work on the Epics, but not on some of the other devices. And I'd say that's all in the uncertain category at this point. So maybe I can hand that back to Josh and see if he could give us some more comments on the fit file recording.
Sure thing. Not maybe the detail that you would hope for, but what I can tell you is kind of our perspective on this. This is a key feature to a lot of our users, very powerful feature, and I think a critical one going forward. But the nature of wearable devices, and especially these Garmin devices, and we're really squeezing out every ounce of power and capability out of these watches in order to deliver that experience that I described earlier. And so we are, they're pretty stretched out or kind of filled out with the capabilities. And what happens a lot of times is that we will design these watches and then get everything we can out of them, and then we add features later. And it's hard sometimes to backport them. And so for the capabilities kind of in general, and specifically for this fit recording, it is always a priority to get it into these older devices that were designed and created years sometimes before the feature. It's our goal and priority to backport it, but sometimes the platform does not allow that. And so what I don't know is which devices will fall on which side of that line. But I do know we will try our hardest to get it into the devices because we know how critical it is. So that's kind of the long way of saying that we will do our best. But that's just the nature of device engineering.
Okay, great. Thanks for that. One of our questions was directly related to that, so you headed off our first question with that answer already. The next question is, on the Moxy apps, can you add in the time of day? And I can take that one. Yep, we certainly can. We probably would need to give up something else because we're at the memory limit right now, so we would need to probably trade a space with one of the other parameters that we display. Maybe we could put that on that. Actually, there might be room on that the pairing screen. We might be able to add time of day rather than elapsed time in that place because we have elapsed time in another place. So that's a great suggestion. I'll take a look at adding that in. The next question is also, can you do an actual pace or speed rather than an average? And this is an astoundingly complicated question. For as simple as it sounds, but the access that we get in ConnectIQ is the access to the data is somewhat limited. We don't get access to necessarily the raw data of the watch. We don't necessarily get the raw GPS data. So we get whatever you could have displayed in the native portion of the watch. And so on devices like the Vivo Active averages the pace all the time on natively. It's about a 1 minute smoothing on the pace, and so that's the data that when we in the ConnectIQ, when we ask it for the pace, it's giving us that pace, which is 1 minute smoothed. Now we've overcome that in the 515 running app. We actually calculate our own pace based on the positions. So we know how far you've moved, we know how long it took, and then we calculate our own pace from that. So that was a way of overcoming that limitation. But there are some limits on that, and I think in the running portion of the watch, we might want to the Moxy Run app. We may want to do that same change that we did on the 515 app, so that we get more of an instantaneous pace in all cases. Next question, I'll let Josh handle this one. When will we see SMO2 and THB as an option on Garmin's?
I don't know for sure. I think as it continues to grow in usage and kind of broader market, I think there's a high likelihood of growing into that as it develops. But as you can imagine, every piece is scrutinized that we add in, and so it goes up against other things that are very, very valuable and complex as well. So I think as it continues to grow in acceptance and usage, I think there's a likelihood, but I don't know timeline specifically.
Okay.
What I love about a solution like Moxy and ConnectIQ is that you can have it today, right? So that's what's exciting.
All right. I've got the next one here. What format is the information in when downloaded from the watch to a computer? I think I can handle that one. It's generally in the .fit format, which and Josh can chime in here if he wants to add on something. But generally in the .fit format, which is great for integrating into softwares like SportTrax or Training Peaks when Training Peaks is ready to add that on their end, plus other softwares like Golden Cheetah, which already accept the data in the .fit format. It's a little tougher if you want to go to it, because a question also asks about Excel, and .fit is not that easy to get into Excel. So I don't know, maybe Josh could comment on, is there the ability to export from Garmin Connect in a CSV format?
Yeah, absolutely, happy to answer. So just for clarification, everybody may be familiar with this, but the way kind of the flow of data is that you capture it on the watch and doing your exercise, your run, your cycle, whatever. You capture the data, it records it to the fit file like Roger mentioned. When you sync your device to your phone, or we have other ways to sync it via USB and Wi-Fi, etc., that goes into Garmin Connect, which is the server land, and where You get the visualization, your history, all your community, your challenges, all that stuff lives in Garmin Connect. And so when you sync it, that data goes into Garmin Connect, and then we have APIs set up to go into some different, like Strava, MyFitnessPal, things like that. Your data can be automatically pushed in those communities, but where you were headed earlier is there's also ways to download your activities one by one to your computer. And within that, if you're in Garmin Connect, it's a little hard to just describe, but up in the, I think it's under the gear, you go in there and you click that, and there's multiple options for the type of file to download. And I believe Excel is one of those, if not just CSV. But you can download it in a much more Excel-friendly file format and use that data, tweak it, whatever you want to do with it after that fact. But so that's how you would go about getting data and using Excel to process it.
Okay. All right. We've got time for one more question here, and this is a good one. It says the Run 515 app keeps dumping me out as soon as I hit start. I get the big IQ logo with an exclamation point. Am I doing something wrong? No, you're not doing anything wrong. That is most likely a programming failure on my part. So when you get, if you're running a ConnectIQ app and you get the watch locks up or the watch does this logo with the exclamation point, that's a problem with the app itself. It's not a problem with the watch. So you need to call whoever made the app would be the person that you need to get in contact with for technical support. So the Garmin technical support is not going to be able to help you with that. And so I'm not sure what is going on in that case. There's probably some condition that we haven't accounted for in the app programming, and that is causing that app to crash. And I can see here who asked the question. I will get with you after this and follow up with a way that we can debug what's going on. And that's what we need to do. The steps would be for me to get in contact with whoever's having the problem. There may be some files that I have you add to the watch or get off of the watch so that we can debug the problem, and then I will fix the app and upload the fixes to the IQ store. So with that, we're at the end of our time here. There's a few more questions still coming in. So I think what I'll do when we post the app, when we post the webinar in our forum, I will put these questions in that section of the forum, and then we can, Josh and I can jump in and answer them at that point. And then if anybody has additional questions or any types of suggestions for apps or ideas for how to use Moxy with ConnectIQ, we'd love to hear those so we can kind of continue the discussion online on our forum. So with that, I'd like to thank Josh for helping us out with this presentation today.
You bet. Thanks for having me. It was a pleasure.